So hello, this is Steven here, doing a audio video project for school, and I figured it would be a great opportunity to teach you guys how I sidechain when I make music. Right, so I know there are a large number of ways to do this. I'm going to just pull up a small example of a song I'm working on now here. It's not named yet, so nobody can steal the name. And here's my, I guess what you would call the channels, but in FL Studio they're treated like just individual faders that respond to specific FX channels that you place things on. And those all route back to the master. You can do different routing with the different, little bus actions down here, but mostly you don't have to go through any of that. Now, for sidechain, for anyone who doesn't know, sidechain compression is when you utilize the signal of one sound as a sort of control signal for the volume of another sound. Now, for all intents and purposes, I've turned it already off so that you can see how this sounds without any sidechain on it at all. And that will, give you a good example of what you are trying to shoot for. So we got a kick here made up of a simple percussion. We have a clap here, or no, not a clap, hi-hat sound. We have a little snap with some reverb on it, and a couple little other percussion noises that are just thrown in here to make a simple little percussion loop. Okay, so with that in mind, when we introduce other elements to this mix, or I guess it's not a mix at this point, but to this song in production, say a synth, things slowly start to get more and more cluttered because there are more things in the center. Now this can be solved by cutting things out on the, via panning, moving things to the outer edges of a stereo spectrum. But this can only alleviate so much, and without EQ, there's plenty of other steps that can be done to make sure that you have enough room in your mix, before you even have to get to the mixing stage. Now, I have a synth here doing the bass part. And that sounds like this. Now, if you look over here at these faders, you can see that I am routing the kick to FX1, which is channel 1 over here, represented by a pink or purple kick channel. And I can route this to 1 also. This is routed to 2, which is for the snare. The little clap snap is being treated as a snare right now. And the rest of these are being routed to channel 8, channel 10, which you can see here. On the sample saying and just insert 10. Now, when you want to control the faders on these to create the pumping effect that'll give you more room in your mix for your drums to stick out, or anything. It could work with vocals being used over guitars, or anything you want to just have a momentary step in when it's actually playing. The simple way I found to do it here is to utilize the Fruity Peak compressor, or Fruity Peak controller, and then you can add a bit of compression to your drums themselves without, as a secondary step. So with the drums by themselves, they just sound, they sound pretty good, I think. But with a little bit of compression, it just adds a little bit of beef to the snare and, to the kick rather. Now, the way I've learned how to use this is that you have your Fruity Peak controller turned on, and how you would initially, let's just turn this off first for a second so I can, start this from scratch so you can see it. You select your Fruity Peak controller, and by default it's set to off. So you unmute it. Initially it's set to mute, so you can't hear it at all. Anything coming through that channel is muted. when you unmute it on this plugin, it is unmuting it on the entire DAW. Now, with that in mind, you want it to affect the faders on these channels. Anything routed to these faders will then thusly be chained down and leave a ducking effect when you are utilizing them with the drums playing, or whatever it may be. So let me unmute these. Now you can see the music bus over here is kind of going. This is where I have all the things bus to, all the music parts. I'm going to turn the bass on. Now you see these things, they are taking a lot of space in the frequency ranges, and that should be fixed by EQ initially, but another step that can be taken in this is to do the sidechain. Now, FL Studio is a very simple way of doing this via the link to controller method. And what this is that you can take one device, aka a plugin or the automation of a certain channel, and you can say, here, I'm routing it to the P control in this Fruity P controller. And then the mapping formula is how you want to have the fader move. The mapping to the fader move, essentially. And this, I usually set to about 1.8 so that it goes up most of the way when it's being left alone, and then when it's not, it goes down a decent amount. So you can hear this now without any sidechain when I hit accept. Now this is on the sample set, so you won't be able to hear any differences on this now. But I'll do the same process on where I have these synths going, or the non-bass in. And you can automatically tell a small difference. Even when you can't hear the kick in there, you can still hear a little bit of a ducking sound, like the volume is being just pulled down right then when it's happening. I'm going to pull this little snap, this hi-hat out of there for a second so you can make sure it's synced. You can see that every four on the floor they got right there, they're going down. So I feel like a teacher right now. Okay. Now, let me unmute this again. Hear this going. Now this is ducking. So let's go to its internal controller, set it to peak, and then invert the scale again at 1.8. This is most apparently turn off the peak controller because that turns off the automation. Now, a lot of electronic music, dance music, utilizes this feature in different ways. It can be achieved by a variety of methods. Some things can go even as far as not using a different plugin. Oops, my plugin died. But it's possible to do with other things. Well, let's see. What did I do wrong that time? There we go. Accidentally turned it off. Anyway, the same effect can be approximated or done various different ways. I found when I had first got FL Studio, they have a sidechain plugin in the volume automation for the plugin for speed. I mean, this is, initially extremely drastic, but you can change the curves of the automation so you can leave this in there. And this is an effect that you can essentially leave on that channel, so even when the drum isn't playing, the pumping and wheezing is still there, which, depending on how your style is or what you want, this can be exactly what you're going for. But anyway, I feel like this is simple enough. If you really want to figure out how to sidechain, this is at least a good start.